that word apathy is so true. It's like, they're not going to get me. They're not going to attack me. And I was saying to some of you before we got started, cyber criminals don't make that distinction between regional and city, bank or winery, construction firm or repair shop. They're all treated the same from their perspective as an opportunity to attack. They are smart, though. They are using artificial intelligence. Once they're into the business, they can determine the size of the business, and then the ransom they hold you for is proportionate to the size of your business. So they're not going to charge a small print shop in the back of Armidale $1 million. They're going to ask for something more realistic, like $50,000. Yes, they'll ask the banks for millions of dollars. But this is how we need to be better prepared. But I got a good number of slides and some demonstrations to give some insights as to the opportunities that exist, particularly in the Microsoft 365 product. I might start, who knows what I mean by Microsoft 365? So Mick does, Phil does. I haven't met the rest of you, but I hope to over drinks later. That's great. So you know what that is. Some of your clients might still be saying, whatever happened to Office? Where's Office gone? And that's an interesting comment. If they make that, it's an opportunity to go and get them to the Microsoft 365, which does give you the security element. So these are some of the areas we'll cover today. What I'm going to do is kind of a step-step challenge solution kind of slides, which talks about the challenge your client might be facing, the challenge you might be facing, and then the solution area within inside the Microsoft 365 set to address that. And David, am I on the black screen or am I too much light? I'm okay. All right, good. I'm going to elaborate more on collaboration technology, things like Teams. We'll touch a little bit on some of the capabilities that they may not have realized the value in today. Some of your clients, have you heard of Business Premium? M365 Business Premium? Phil's nodding. Mike hasn't. That's okay. These are the things that most of our clients we would encourage to invest in, because it does give them that security. Gives them a lot more, but security is one of the components of that. I know it comes with a little bit more expense. It comes at kind of what they might be paying today at around $20. They need to move to kind of $30 per month. But really, when you think about it, what's a cup of coffee per employee per month to give you the security, the reliability, the safety in running your business? It's not a lot for them to expend that extra couple of bucks per employee per week to get that extra safety and security. And then some of the benefits. I am also going to include some elements to introduce the next series. So I hope Greg's happy with that. Just a little bit on AI at some point to give a sense of really where the market is. So much opportunity for increasing productivity in the businesses. But this is a defining moment. Security is the defining challenge. It's the number one priority from Microsoft right now. For all the things that we have as Microsoft across cloud services, and servers in the cloud, and modern work, Teams, and Windows 11, the number one focus for us at the moment is making sure customers have got security in their lives, software security in their lives. So that's where we're turning our attention. And good timing for this event, given it is Cyber Security Awareness Month. So very good timing for your organization, for ViaTEK, to seize on the opportunity to talk about security, because it is that time, it is that month. Only got a couple of days left till Halloween, or in fact, I think it's tomorrow night, Halloween. But we've snuck in Cyber Awareness Month to our conversation today. Pre-COVID, you'd remember the days working in an office, going to an office. Many of your clients may still operate that way, where they're operating in an office. They can't access any information unless they go to the office, and they get on their computers, they get on their Macs, wired into the network, and everything was kind of safe because we're inside the building. But does it really work that way anymore, does it? I imagine most of you have got the ability to work from home. Is that true? You can even not only use a work-issued computer, you can pull out your iPhone or your Android phone, pull out your tablet, pull out your home computer, and you can get into a work environment. But you're a modern organization as ViaTEK and some of the customers here today, but not all the people are out there with that modern thinking and realization that the world is now, the perimeter of the world is hybrid. Your people, as we say, are now the perimeter of your business. So it isn't a defense wall like the old fortress of medieval days. We are now in the fields, and we need protection in the fields as we're working from home, as we're working in the fields, when we're working in the wineries, when we're working at the truck. These places also need to be established levels of security. And there's no doubt that we have shifted to that work remote. Some organisations are sending people back to work, as we know. But even then, when they are at work, great, they got that perimeter. But when they go home, we still need to have that security in place. And we do tend to still work from home on the trains, as I did on the way up from Sydney today. Fantastic train trip, wonderful. And I could work the entire way up because there's good cell service now all the way. These are some of the top challenges for small and medium. How do I control that better, that distributed work? How do I maintain that? But how do I also reduce costs? Because there's a concern. They go, oh, this security thing is going to cost me a bit of money to implement in my business. But that's the classic risk analysis that needs to be done. The dangers associated with being attacked and the costs of being attacked versus the cost of insurance. I imagine most of you got homes that are insured, cars that are insured. Think of it like an insurance payment to give you that security in your business as well. There's another talk that you could consider is around cyber insurance. There's some really good conversations around the role of cyber insurance and necessary prerequisite to be eligible and to be paid out on things like cyber insurance. Definitely so. I don't think there's any surprises there. Increasing amount of phishing and ransomware attacks. And I've got a few statistics on that area coming up on the next slide. Big increases in ransomware. Phishing attacks are becoming more prevalent than ransomware attacks. As we've seen, the defenses for ransomware have been put in place. But phishing attacks, that's with a PH like Phil and Phil. That's also spear phishing attacks. And that's where they use social engineering coupled to the attack. So they court individuals. They romance them, if you will, into feeling comfortable about that email, comfortable about that phone call. So education of staff, I will say, is the number one thing to do. Just because it's there to click on, don't click on it. Just because somebody rings you up and says they're the new supplier, go and verify they're the new supplier for providing you the gravel or the paving or the tyres or whatever it is. These spear phishing attacks are notorious in the amount of money they can get by simply grooming a person into thinking, oh, new supplier, new account number. So there's an average cost down the bottom there. $108,000 is the average cost of an SMB breach. It can be smaller. It can certainly be larger. But again, thanks to AI, these actors, as they're called, bad actors, they're the ones who can see the size of the organization and attribute, they can balance how much it might be. All good with that? Any questions? I think I've given you enough fear and concern. So let me give you a little bit of peace of mind. This is a slide I built some time ago just to try and map out for you, clients, an understanding of what is inside that Microsoft 365 package. And some of you might be sitting going, oh, I didn't know I had that. Admittedly, that is a slide around business premium. You don't get all that with business basic or business standard. It is the premium product. So that's that $30 product a month that you're getting this. But isn't there a lot there? And if you go to the left-hand side of that slide, I didn't know if you realized you had things like self-service password reset. Anybody forgotten their password before? Then there's a tool that they can use to do self-service password reset. They don't have to call somebody up at ViaTEK and say, hey, can you reset my password? They can basically do it themselves through a portal. It's got things like multi-factor authentication, the same type of technology that you use with your bank today. Even when you sign into Qantas today, even when you sign into hotel chains today, they're giving you that verification message coming on your phone. Now, this is a little bit more sophisticated even than the bank ones because it's using a encryption method. It's using a verification process, which is a high level of standard, even than what your bank does with your commercial banking application. And they get that with the authenticator app included. Conditional access when you're traveling. I know I'm using fancy terms here. Impossible traveler. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's where somebody signs in your organization here in Newcastle, and then 2 hours later they're signing in Athens. They're signing in another place. So surely that can't be right, that they can be signing in Newcastle and 2 hours later. So I'd love to get that plane that could take 2 hours to get me to Athens. Doesn't exist. So alerts go off to say somebody's trying to use your account, trying to access your resources. conditional access. We were having a chat, some of us, a moment ago about devices that you've got that come into the business. And when they leave the business, needing to ensure that removed from those devices are the files and the application business gave them. So that's that whole device and application management. Over on the right-hand side is stuff that we can talk about in another time when we get into artificial intelligence. So important to classify documents in a business. I'll briefly talk about that, but the idea that HR people only see HR documents. Senior management only see senior management documents. People working on research and development only see research and development. You don't need somebody who's a salesperson being able to make a query and tell me all the salaries of the staff. So this is something that we can look at in terms of capabilities in the box. But I must confess, most of you would think about Microsoft 365 under that number 3. Productivity applications, you can name them as quick as I can: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Access, those kind of productivity applications. There is a lot more, as you can see from that snake, that exists as benefits to the client that we probably need to help them activate to get all of the joy that comes there. So let's touch through a couple of these in that solution versus challenge model. I'm sure you've still got people out there you know who, when they're working on something, will send an email with an attachment and they ask you to update and send it back. And then a whole string of people get involved in updating that presentation or that spreadsheet or that document. And before you know it, you've got 5, 10, 15 different versions of the file existing. So the idea of using something like Teams is that you have the ability to then work collaboratively on a single version. Now, whether that version is something you've created as your business, I try and get rid of that noise. It's okay. Is that me? It's me. It would be me. To work collaboratively on a file. So you can create that file. It can be in Google storage area, but you can give people in other organizations, people in your business and other organizations, access to that particular file. So you're working on it collaboratively. You can actually go back to old editions. Go and open up a file and show me the edition from 2 weeks ago, 2 days ago, 2 hours ago, and you can restore anything somebody might have deleted from the file that you want to keep. So, it's definitely a great opportunity, and that comes in, there's the Microsoft Teams element. Share at the back. How do you know they modified it? Well, hopefully you turned on track changes. Just in this Word document, this spreadsheet, this file. Okay? So that's one way to do it. And if you don't want to accept the changes, there's one way to get back. Or if you've not enabled tracking changes, you've got the opportunity to go, hang on a second, there's a couple of slides missing here. I want to roll it back a couple of hours or a couple of days to get to the version that was there. Still retaining the current one, but I want to see the old version as well. Copy those 2 slides out, put them into the current version again. So a couple of approaches to answer your question. What about gaining access to information, stealing passwords, trying to access data? That's that impossible traveler type element that I mentioned earlier. That's where the multi-factor authentication and conditional access technologies come in. So inside there, Microsoft 365 Business Premium is this thing called Active Directory Premium 1. And you can see the sorts of things that you've got, the multi-factor authentication, ability to say you can't sign on in Sydney, in Newcastle, and 2 hours later sign on in some place that's geographically impossible to get to. So that's an element that you also get in terms of a solution that's in the box in Business Premium. Phishing attacks. So in this case, receives an email with a link to a secure document. They think it's secure. They think it's an email from their supplier. They think it's an email from their customer. It's not. There might be a little O that's turned to a 0 or an I that's turned to a 1. They think it looks like the email address of the person, but it's not. So this is part of the education process too, is to show them those little pieces of things in the email. It doesn't look quite right. If you've ever received one, you sometimes see spelling mistakes. The English isn't quite right. So these sorts of education, again, an important step. Nonetheless, if you wish, you have got the technology inside the product to sophisticated phishing attacks can be detected. So we have a whole lot of insight to the various bad actors out there. We're currently tracking over 300 cybercrime organizations and about 140 nation-state actors. We pick up about 75 trillion signals every single day. So based on that telemetry, just an individual like you, we appreciate when you say, this is a phishing attack, this is a scam. We appreciate you right-clicking and saying that's junk, so that then that becomes part of the signaling, which helps others. So, you might be that person who goes, why have I got this junk in my email box? Thoughtful for others would be to flag that as junk, that is a phishing attack, that signal comes back to us. We also open up most emails. We don't read them. We open up those emails and we look for malicious behavior inside those, where they're trying to create admins, they're running executables. What looks like a PDF becomes an executable. What looks like a video looks like it's a macro. We open those up, we examine them, and then we detonate them before, and we give you a flag. This has got a text file attachment. It did have an attachment. We've turned it into a text file attachment. If you don't like that, you can change the settings. ViaTEK people have got the power to go in there and say, okay, this particular user wants to receive the attachments. They want to take that determination themselves. There is that possibility. So there's a whole bunch of granular levels in terms of detonating the URL, retaining the URL, etc. Accidental data loss. This is a big one. This one, in terms of Australian law, anybody heard of notifiable data breach? Came into effect February 2018. Yep. So this is a real fundamental one that every single one of the businesses in Australia should have activated, which is where they've got salary information, they've got personally identifiable information, they've got age, they've got phone numbers, and the small businesses have this sort of personally identifiable information in their business. So one way to protect against that is by turning on things like the highly confidential capability. So flagging that document as soon as it's got PII, personally identifiable information, we can automatically flag that document as highly confidential. And the sets of users who are able to open the document are, I'll go back to a comment I made earlier, a group, the HR group, the legal group, the senior management group, they're the only ones. Or even just the individual who's created that document with PII data to control who's got access to that information. We also have the ability to turn on information protection. So to protect that information. So if you're concerned about data leaving your organization, being copied to a personal drive, we can activate another facility called information protection, which actually even prevents people doing things like saving the file to a personal storage device, to a personal USB. It says, sorry, you can't copy that list of customers to USB. You can't send that to your personal email account. And if they try and, use the whole snippy thing, capture the screen, and it pastes as a black blob. You can even activate in that what's called watermarking. The government's particularly excited about our watermarking capability, given, again, AI and deepfake, that if somebody tries to create something with AI, we put a watermark in the back to say who created it, that it is generated by AI, and there's evidence in that process. So this is the work with data on personal devices, preventing that data, in this case, accidentally saving it to a personal share instead of saving it to a work account. We can prevent that accident of saving it to their Dropbox or their box by enabling that Intune application policy so that it will only be saved into their work account if it's work data, personal data in personal account. The other one that's very popular is the Defender series of technologies. So some of you might be aware of brands like CrowdStrike or Trend or McAfee or Checkpoint. Yep. There's so many vendors in that particular space today. We've actually got a product called Defender, or XDR, Extended Detection and Response, that ships inside Business Premium. And you may think, it's part of the product, maybe not so good. Well, have a look at AAA, have a look at MITRE, have a look at these independent authorities, and it's very clear that this has been the best product for the last now 5 years running. So it beats all the others in terms of its quality, control, responsiveness, ability to deal, and its performance on the computer. So in fact, it could be a way in which one of your organizations could be saving money by simply turning off that third-party product. It's cost of living crisis, I believe. So one of the things to be able to help you It'd be to save money on buying things you don't need anymore. And that would be by activating things like Defender, which is a top of the line, as I say, 5 years in a row now, consistently the number one XDR product available. Works on Mac, works on Android, works on iOS, works on Linux, and also happens to work on Windows as well. So all those platforms are covered, and consistency across virtual desktop. What about ransomware? This is where, again, that person's clicked on an email, it's infected a set of files, you're worried now, you're getting a bill, they're saying pay this into Bitcoin, you've got to give us some money to get your files unencrypted. So they're very concerned about ransomware. Is that fair to say? Are they still concerned about ransomware? You're like, yep, okay, you're still concerned about ransomware. I give it to you. So maybe something to help educate them on is that in Business Premium, Defender does protect against that. So if somebody's trying to apply a ransomware or a piece of code to encrypt those files and then pop up that message, you owe us so many Bitcoins, we do put that in the Defender box. Okay? For some reason, they don't want to turn on Defender. Great shame they didn't, because it could have saved them money. It could have stopped that in the first place. If they haven't, you have got OneDrive. If they got their files in OneDrive, they've got them in Teams. If they've got them in SharePoint, you can use the Time Machine feature. That's all a ransomware is. It's basically a change to the file at a particular point in time. By using the Time Machine and saying, well, take me back the minute before those changes occurred, those files are there without the encryption in them. So it's a simple process to eradicate ransomware. You'd have to go to backup. You'd have to restore the files to be able to do it. They're already there. You just got to roll it back in time to the point, and they're sitting in the cloud ready to be used. So great ways that you can think about defending against ransomware. But it's amazing the number of people who don't know about the Time Machine facilities in OneDrive. It does mean you need to store your files in OneDrive. You don't get when you store on your local computer. So that's another value you get, a terabyte of storage in the cloud that follows you wherever you go. But then also the Defender product, which is that immediate defensive line that you can have. What about litigation and disasters that might befall an organization? Now, admittedly, the strong underpinning here is, as I said before, education of the users. But a second one would be about migrating their files from on-premise servers into the cloud. Now, once they're in the cloud, a lot of these things around backup, restore and backup of your email, backup of files or file servers becomes redundant. Because when you move to M365, your data is actually backed up 3 times a day in our regions. We have 3 regions in Australia at the moment. We just introduced the one in New Zealand. So we've got the one in Sydney, which is actually now 7 data centers with replication between them. We've got Melbourne, which has got 4 going to 5 data centers. And we've got Canberra, where there are now 9 data centers running today. And in Canberra, it's a bit of a special case. They've got 1 at the top of the ACT, or 4 at the top of the ACT, and another 4 down the bottom of the ACT. All those data centers replicate each other, and that's because the feds and mission-critical organizations like power authorities, rail transportation authorities want that ability to have high-speed replication and complete disaster recovery, including potential loss of a data center. Point I want to make, you lose any one of those data centers. We were talking about drone attacks earlier in terms of physical. These data centers are all built to fail over from one another. Your data is backed up 3 times a day within those regions, and twice a day we actually take your data and move it to another region. We copy from Sydney to Melbourne and Melbourne to Sydney. So your backup's done. It's dealing with disaster recovery. If we lost all of that, I'm grabbing the kids and I'm finding a farm that Phil's going to tell me that's really nice out at Inverell. I'm going to hunker myself down there if we lost all of them, because it's a bad day in the office if we lost all of our region. In fact, over the last, I think I put this figure up there, we've only had 2 minutes of downtime since 2016 when we activated these services. So it's very highly available. So the potential of it and the incidences of it are very, very rare. But yeah, and in the case of where you might say, well, I use my backup to deal with litigation and retention policies. I need these files kept for
7 years. Taxation. Will you simply activate retention policies and then use the adaptive discovery restore? And so you can then say, I don't have to restore some backup. What I could do is to say, well, keep all the files and documents and messages associated with this particular user. They might have left us 2 years ago. They were involved in a matter 4 years ago related to building a bridge across the home. Okay, it goes there, brings it all back, puts it in the big blob, and you take that to your lawyers and say, all the communications were stated to Johnny in dealing with the Hunter River geoing project, going back 4 years, 5 years. So that's all there in the box.
Look, I'm not going to talk to all those bullets. There's a lot there that you can offer in around security. These are elements that exist in Microsoft 365 to be able to do the job. As you can see, lots of stuff to do with insider risk management, data classification, sensitivity labeling, watermarking, tracking, data loss prevention. It's a big job to understand what's there, but they all have a role to play. They all have a point in time that they become invaluable. Security is not single dimensional. It's not just one thing you need to do. Your car just doesn't have seatbelts. There's many other safety measures that your motor car has. In the same vein, your business needs to have multiple defense mechanisms, safety mechanisms, security mechanisms in the business. In summary, there's a lot inside Microsoft 365 Business Premium to give you security at the user level, the device level, the application level, and the document level. I would draw your attention to the fact that another conversation you may wish to have your clients and yourselves is moving off Windows 10. It's not as secure as it needs to be, and often it's a function of the hardware that underpins it, that doesn't have the necessary chip technologies to protect against the modern cyber attack. So Windows 10 actually goes end of support in October next year. So you may wish to think about Windows 11, which is part of your Business Premium subscription. You actually get a copy of Windows 11. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work on your current PC, but there is a chance it will work on your current PC and you can move to the latest version as part of that. It's also an opportunity to consider these new generations of devices that HP makes and others, but HP makes what's called a Copilot Plus PC. Got a Copilot button on the keyboard. It's using what's called an NPU, a neural processing unit. You will understand CPUs. Yeah. You understand GPUs, which is the graphical one. And then you've also now got a neural processor, which operates at 40 trillion operations per second. And typically we'll use a low battery or low power chip technology to achieve that as well. And so you're getting the double benefit in talking to clients and your staff at the moment about moving to Copilot Plus PC as an avenue. And a Copilot device will actually do some of the AI locally. It won't have to go to the cloud to generate images, to do summaries of documents. It'll actually do it locally. As I said, I've used that car analogy a moment ago. You can build your own car, and maybe some of you here are capable of doing that. But for me, I'm past the days of even building my own bikes from parts. I just go and buy a bike that's built now. So all the chains and the cogs and the derailleur and the brakes are all built, and it's all built by a manufacturer that's built it to all work together. So it's all built to work together and together. So this is the idea that we also see in terms of that cost of living. Some organizations are using a myriad of different products in their businesses today, which creates gaps, creates contracting issues, creates whack-a-mole, as I call it. Anybody remember whack-a-mole? You do? Oh, good. You go down to the amusement park and you're banging down all the different vendors. So the idea is they've only got one mole to whack. That's us at Microsoft now. So that's the idea of reduce your expenditure and have one throat to choke, one butt to kick, one drink to have. I mentioned it earlier. We do a lot. We're the largest security vendor in the planet by an order of 10. You can think of any other security vendor you wish to think of. One name popped into your head, you'll need to multiply it by 10 to equal the amount of investment we make in research and development, the amount of money that we derive from the product. More money in security for Microsoft now than Windows. You can see the sort of telemetry we get in the latest digital defense report came out only 2 weeks ago. It's a really good read. It is about 110 pages long, but go for the executive overview and even use Copilot to summarize that first page. I did mention we're not just best of suite, we're best of breed now. No other vendor in the security space has got 5 Gartner quadrants. And I've also included a list of very interesting reference points you may wish to consider, including Microsoft customers who are using our Secure Future initiative, international platforms like CIS is a control platform that we developed too. So it's an internationally recognized standard. In the US, we follow NIST. In the EU, we follow NIS2. In Australia, we absolutely have resources to help you address Essential 8. And in fact, if you look at the bottom link, which is the Australia M365 Maps link, we have a special link there for showing you how it addresses Essential 8. So next steps, please, learn more about what we've got, see what we've got in collaboration, communication, security. It is a less expensive approach, though people might go, oh, why do I got to pay another cup of coffee a week per employee to get all of that? Well, I think it's better to pay for that cup of coffee, 4 cups of coffee a month, than it is to go and get hit by some cyber attack or play whack-a-mole with a range of different security vendors. It seems like, oh, I'm paying more, but you're actually going to be doing more with less. So with that, I'll pass back to you, Greg, and thank you for the chance to share a few thoughts.